Now, some of you may be familiar with, some of you may not. This is the hierarchy of risk control. It's known by health and safety consultants as ERIC prevents death because of the letters that make it up. If you're not familiar with this, it's a good idea to get familiar with it, because often if you're talking to organisations about having decisions made or looking at different sets of purse strings, the health and safety person or the manual handling lead are the people that can point you in the right direction or sign things off. This is day one of any health and safety course, understanding how to do a risk assessment. The first test is, can we avoid it? If we can't avoid it, what can we do to reduce the risk of restraining someone? Before we consider putting our hands on someone and physically holding them, because it can be traumatic, ask ourselves this: might it be better to give the person some space, or might it be better to take them to a seclusion area where they can calm down? Now, I've put control in red because here's a fact we all know. Holds, physical intervention, manual holds, they don't always work. And usually somebody suffers discomfort or somebody gets hurt. So if there's an alternative to that that sits before there, they're the things we should consider, because I've seen it happen. I've seen people turn up to court with the shiny certificate and the manual saying, these are the techniques I've learned, I'm going to be fine. And they don't get to justify the control measure because these are the questions they're asked first. Has this happened before? Yes. Oh, it's a known risk then, so it's subject to risk assessment. What have you got in place to reduce the risks? Have you got reasonable adjustments in place for these people? What's your seclusion system like? How do you get somebody there? How long do you keep them there? How do you manage them while they're in there? And only then would you get to justify the control measures. If control measures aren't enough, the next step we move towards is PPE, personal protective equipment, which again, mechanical and soft restraints come under that. They're work equipment. They're also there for protection. Protection of the patient, protection of the general public, protection of the staff at the end of the day. And D, for me, discipline's a massive one. If you're stuck in one of these for any period of time, don't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity. Think to yourself, okay, right, if we have to keep restraining someone, is there something else we can use that's least restrictive? That might be an item of mechanical restraint equipment. It might be a case of giving somebody an area or a space where they can exist in. But doing the same thing isn't conducive with a risk assessment, and that's what I'm trying to show you here. So, when we talk about risk assessments, we're talking about manual handling. Okay, it's the manual handling of people, but let me just take you through a quick risk assessment. Now, we work internationally. One of the things I found internationally is, although people like British qualifications, they don't like me talking about British legislation. So a lot of the training packages we have, I've had to tailor a little bit. And we've based it on the NEBOSH qualification. The NEBOSH is an international standard for health and safety, and it's something that's worked really well for us when we talk to people about using soft restraints. So first of all, you're going to look at the load. So just have a look at this from us restraining people. Is the load heavy, bulky or unwieldy, difficult to grasp, unstable, hot or potentially damaging? Yes to all in some situations. Your individual capabilities. As we get older, we start to carry injuries, we start to deteriorate slightly. So does it require unusual strength or height? It might not for somebody who's very young, but what's our staff's capabilities? Is it hazardous to people who have a health problem? There's all sorts of health problems within our workforces. We've got to be sensible in the expectations. The task, are people holding loads at a distance away from the trunk? Most of the time we're not, but if somebody's trying to bite at you, spit you or get to you, you instinctively move away. You move your arms away from your trunk. What's your body movement or posture like? Depending on the height of you and the person you're working with, pushing or pulling distances, stopping suddenly, you get the idea. You can't manually handle risk assess people if people do not want to be moved or they're struggling. That's where we start to look at equipment. And health and safety legislation is quite clear on this and guidance. What it says is, if there's a mechanical method of doing manual handling which is safer than the actual manual handling activity, you should always choose the mechanical method. So you think about forklift trucks, moving pallets around warehouses all the time. You think about going shopping. Who shops at Lidl, Aldi or Netto? Who shops at Waitrose or Sainsbury's? Oh, cut the room in half. So when my wife's at home, we go to Aldi, which is great because you get shopping for about £20. When my wife's not there, we don't have Waitrose, we have booths. So I go to booths because you can park and it's nice and it smells nice, and people always help you with your shopping, and you get a little token to give to charity. It's great and you feel good when you're walking out. Aldi checkout experience is emotional. You get this much to pack your shopping, and what's it like? It's thrown at you, isn't it? And it's a race. Do you know why that is? It's because of work-related upper limb disorders. So Scandinavian and German supermarkets bulletproof themselves against claims. They say don't help with the packing, be nice to customers, and then watch them go. But in the UK and America, we twist, we turn, we lift, we pull, and then we claim, and we constantly pay out. So if you've got tins of beans and bacon and bread that aren't fighting back, and you've got big corporations doing that, what are we doing? What are we doing sometimes when we're looking at holding people for hours on end? Where possible, avoid manual handling. This is to stop the musculoskeletal disorders and the work-related upper limb disorders. Are the gangways clear to allow people to move? Does the work area affect the handler's posture? Makes me laugh. Is the load stable and readily grasped? No. And if it was, would we be manhandling that person anyway? No, it's not something we'd do. And the hands are not more than shoulder width apart. Depends on how big the person, doesn't it? PPE should not interfere with the performance of the task. If anything, it should aid the performance of the task. If there's items of work equipment that can protect people, then they're there.